President of Education for Junior Achievement of the Palm Beaches and Treasure Coast. And we are an organization that works with students ages 5 through 25 on 3 things. The first one is financial literacy. Raise your hand if you like money. Everybody likes money. It helps us buy the things that we need and the things that we want. Career readiness. How many people want to get a job or have a job? Pretty important if you want money, right? How else are you going to get the money? Unless it comes from the lotto or something. So we help students understand about different career possibilities, and that's why we do career fairs. And the third pillar of junior achievement is entrepreneurship. And that's what this week is all about. It's Global Entrepreneurship Week. So with my organization, we are visiting local schools, and we are bringing knowledgeable, experienced entrepreneurs into the classroom to share their stories with you. Because everybody started from something. Everything starts from an idea. Entrepreneurs, I don't think they sleep a lot at night. I think they come up with new ideas about their businesses, right? So with me today, I'm excited to introduce Mariel Fry. She's the founder of FM Bookkeeping, a company she launched in 2023 after recognizing that small business owners needed a more personalized financial support. So with more than 8 years of experience in corporate America, including roles in travel, media, and entertainment, Mariel used her skills in billing, administration, and reconciliation to create a service that helps entrepreneurs stay more financially organized and confident. In 2024, Mariel also became a mom, which inspired her to start Mom Entrepreneur, a blog. How many people like blogs? Or you're on TikTok, right? Social media, right? You're out there, we know it. Which supports and encourages other moms to balance business and family life. That's super important. Today, FM Bookkeeping has a small but growing team that provides billing, reconciling, and reporting services to help small businesses thrive. So think about questions as she speaks. We're going to have some little things for you afterwards, and we'll open it up for Q&A at the end. Please welcome Mariel Fry.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. I have been in your shoes many, many years ago, and I'm going to say probably 15 years ago. So I knew what it was like being in high school. It was not fun for me. But I only wish I would have had an opportunity like this where somebody spoke to me about entrepreneurship. I didn't understand entrepreneurship. I didn't grow up with that. I grew up going to school, go to college, get a job. And if only I knew that there were other options, maybe I would have thought about it differently. And I don't know, could have started a business a bit earlier, right? So my path is definitely different. So I am going to go a little bit off the cuff with my presentation, but I am going to still stick with it at the same time. So we can go to the next slide. So I started my business in really end of 2022, but early 2023. I understood money, but not in the right ways. I used to spend a lot of money, get in debt, and I realized that's not good. I want to have clear financial clarity. And for me, I really just wanted to have full confidence in myself, but financial freedom. I think we all, who doesn't want financial freedom? Who doesn't want to feel like they can control their life, their schedule, and how they make money? And that's really what I wanted, and I wanted to help other business owners. My path was not normal. I'll go into my entrepreneurial path, but I did not even get into entrepreneurship until a few years ago, but I always worked for other companies for many, many years. So I've been through both. I've been through the corporate life of working for someone, but I've also been able to be my own boss. You can go to the next slide. So what is FM Bookkeeping? My name is not sexy. It is not like a creative name. I know some people want to be creative. I wish I was. That's not me. But FM Bookkeeping is my initial backwards. I didn't think MF was appropriate. So I kind of went with FM instead. And so my business with my firm, we really look to help small business owners. Small business owners are not seen and heard they try to work with bigger companies, but they're just a number. And I treat my clients with such care and just always want to give them the best value and the best service. So really, what is a bookkeeper? A lot of people think a bookkeeper is like a CPA. What a CPA is they prepare the taxes. They're actually filing, right? Every single person in this room, I'm sure maybe you've heard the quote, you pay your taxes and you die, which is not nice. But it is important to pay your taxes every year, and there's a lot of implications if you don't. But as a bookkeeper for a small business, I help organize their financials on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis. So everything is clean, so when a tax preparer actually files the return, they have all the information that they need. To give it in very simple, plain terms. You can go to the next slide. So why did I start my business? Why would I be crazy enough to be an entrepreneur? It's a crazy world. To your point, when Erica mentioned earlier, I don't sleep. I literally don't sleep. I've been up since 1 a.m, which is crazy. But I'm always thinking, and I love my business. I'm excited to get up in the morning. When you work for somebody else, it's really, really challenging. And I didn't want that. And now becoming a mom, I've just realized that I want to be home with my kid. I have a son, he's a little over a year, and I didn't want to have to give up either one. And I think when I was in high school, when I was your age, thinking about a child was not even on my radar. I wanted to party, I wanted to go out, I wanted to work, I wanted to make money, I wanted to have a good time. So the idea of thinking about a kid and having this career was always like, have a career, do all the things, make the money. But then if you want a family, what does that look like? What does childcare look like? It just, your whole world changes. And so for me, I wanted to be able to have both. I wanted to have my cake and eat it too, but that's really hard. And so I realized I really want to be an entrepreneur more than anything else in the world. But what does that look like? And so with my corporate career, I was able to take these skills that I had to create a business. And so some of the best advice I've ever received, kind of two things. One, work part-time for somebody if you're interested in it. Because the reality is when you don't know about a business, you're just clueless, right? I didn't know about bookkeeping, but I worked for somebody for a little while to see if I even liked it, if I was even remotely interested. Perfect example of this, my husband owns a construction business, both entrepreneurs. He had somebody work for him for one day, thinking they wanted to do it, and he said, nope, I'm not interested. So at least he had the opportunity to see what it was like before he fully jumped in. So I would say for anyone who wants to become a doctor or a vet or a lawyer or an accountant, like work for somebody and see if you even are like interested or you like it before you pay all this money for college. Just see if it's even remotely interesting to you. And so for me, I just really love what I do because I get to empower small business owners. I give them peace of mind and clarity over their finances, and they can feel really good about doing the other things that they're good at in their business. Because when you're a business owner, you wear a million hats. You're the branding person, you're the marketing person, you're the finance person, you're selling, you're doing everything. And you cannot do everything in a business. You will literally go crazy. So if you can outsource the things you don't like and focus on the things you do like, it will literally make the world of a difference. And I can promise you that because my clients feel that way. They come to me with peace of mind and clarity, and they just feel really, really good about having their finances cleaned up and one less thing they have to worry about. You can go to the next slide. So what does money mean to you? Does money mean freedom? You can pay your bills, you can invest, you can go on that nice vacation, you can go out to dinner. Like, what does money actually mean to you? I know for me, I look at it like this. When you make money, you can save, spend, and invest. But if you don't make money, you can't do any of those things. So making money is very important. And I was just taught my whole life to save, 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 save. Get a job, you'll get the 3% raise, all good. But the reality is when you want to go buy, if you want to buy a house one day or rent, it's very expensive. And salaries are not going up to par to what real estate is. So we have to make money to some level, right? So we can save for emergency funds for, oh shoot, situations. We can invest to grow and compound, but we can spend the money on the bills or the vacations or the dinners. But you have to make the money first. And that's something that took me a really long time to even truly understand. And being a business owner, I'm able to make more money. But look, there's always risks and headaches too. But I'm able to make my own schedule, my own life, and I'm able to make the money that I want. And that's something super empowering that I would tell anybody is the best feeling in the world. So it just depends on the direction you want to go in. But I really want you to think about, what does money actually mean to you? You can go to the next slide. So money mindset. I think a lot of us come from maybe money trauma or money happiness. Money means something different to everybody. I grew up with my mom having a little coupon box, and she would every Sunday get the newspaper, cut coupons, and save them. And I had my coupon box. And with garage sales, I'm really dating myself here, but they were in the newspaper. Now that's on Facebook, you can look up garage sales. So the reality is I grew up not being cheap, but being thrifty and saving money and not having to spend full price. So really, I want you to think about, what does money mean to you and your mindset? Like, how do you feel about it? From being a mom, I want my kid to learn money in a really healthy way, and that's a really hard balance of what does that look like? And then, right, as a business owner for myself, like, what does my pricing look like? Am I pricing too low? Am I pricing too high? Are people going to want to work with me? Are they going to say I'm I'm not worth it? Or are they going to say I'm too expensive, I can't afford you? So that's really hard to figure out that balance, right? Depending what you're selling if you become business owners. Or if you work for somebody, what is your salary, right? Me growing up, there was not this conversation of what a job versus salary was. Now you could do so much homework. I mean, with ChatGPT and AI, you could just Google it, or Chat AI or Claude or Gemini, whatever platform you use. Back when I was looking at jobs, it was like, it was very taboo to talk about your salary. To a point, it still kind of is, but there's ways you can figure out what somebody makes to make sure you're valuing yourselves, because that's so important. That's something I didn't do. And when I talked to other colleagues, I realized that they were making so much more money than me, and I was working just as hard. So I just encourage all of you to have the money conversation of what your worth is and your value, because I didn't know for a really long time. And then really, as a bookkeeper, it's empowering my clients to know what they're making. And we talk about their goals, and we'll get to that a little bit later, but having a goal of like, okay, in my business, I want to make $500,000. Well, how are you getting there? What are you doing to get to that point? And so these are real conversations I have, especially cash flow. When you work, I think the biggest difference as an entrepreneur to working as a kind of company, when you are a W-2, you work for someone, you get a paycheck every 2 weeks and you can budget that. But when you're an entrepreneur, it's cash flow, money coming in, money going out, and it's managing that on a day-to-day. What does that look like? And a lot of business owners truly are clueless. And so that's where someone like myself comes in, and we have these real conversations. So you can go to the next slide. So there's a lot of mindset around money when it comes to negative and positive. Some of these are just examples of negative mindset when it comes to money. And I'm sure maybe some of you feel this, like, I don't have enough, or I'm not worth it, or I'm not charging, or what's my value? It's really hard. I think naturally we think very negatively as humans. And I don't like to think like that, but naturally we just do. And to not force yourself, but to think positively, you have to really kind of come in and almost reframe and replace that thought. And so these are just a few examples. I'll never get ahead, I'm not worth it. And I don't want anyone to feel that way. And we all do to some level, but how can we get out of that? So to the next slide. Some positive ones, right? Some positive mindset. And so for me, some of my biggest mantras are money always comes to me, business always comes to me. But these are just some other examples that you can use. I'm capable and I'm confident. Money flows to me effortlessly. Whatever that looks like for you, I think having a mantra, I know like the Tony Robbins and Mel Robbins of the world with the positive mindset, like, I'm worth it, I'm worthy, I'm good enough, I'm amazing. Like, even like, true story, my sister did like a positive birth, she had a baby too recently, and she would post on her mirror, like, I'm going to have a positive birth and I'm going to have a wonderful experience. And it sounds so silly, so cliche. I'm not a cliche person, but I do think there is something to be said about a lot of mindset and having more positive mindset. And it's hard if you don't feel positive or you're not in a positive situation. But my biggest belief is like, just do something 1% every day to make you feel better. Even if it's like doing a load of laundry or putting on makeup, whatever that looks like for you to be positive and to get in a better mindset will compound so much greater. You can go to the next slide. So here's some tools and tips. Not every tip may be applicable to you. Not every tip might feel right for you, but these are just a few that I've seen work. The first one, budgeting and tracking. Nowadays, back in the day, I mean, when my grandmother was a bookkeeper, she did it hand wrote it. And if she was off by a penny, she'd have to go back and figure it out. Nowadays, there's software. There's Rocket Money, I think, and there's Quicken, and you do different things with Excel and I'm sure AI if you want to budget and really track money. And that looks different for everybody in every situation. I joke taxes are like a diet to a certain level. Sure, there's a general rule of thumb, but at the end of the day, every unique situation is different for everybody. Whether you're married, kids, you own a house, you have a mortgage, property taxes, you're going to school, like whatever that is, everybody's in a different situation. And so the biggest thing is goals. I tell my clients to set goals. I set my own goals. I have a mentor, and every month we talk about our goals. How much money we want to make in our business, but how do we get to that point? What marketing do we do? What networking do we do? How do we retain those clients and continue to gain more clients? And so when you have goals, personal, business, anything in between, having goals and writing them down and having accountability. I think, I forgot the statistic now, but it's like 90% of people who have accountability with their goals are more likely to achieve them than not. So I encourage each and every one of you to find somebody that you're accountable with and write your goals down. Like, get serious about whatever goals you have. It's something I really started to do, and it's changed my life forever. And I couldn't imagine not having goals. Systems, right? I know I use QuickBooks Online. So if you don't know QuickBooks, it's essentially a software that helps my clients organize their finances. There's plenty of others out there, but there's apps for everything. We're on our phones, right, and computers. There's an app for every problem to solution. So there's so many things to keep yourself organized that you don't even have to think about anymore. You know, something I've been trying to play with a little bit is a bit of gratitude. I'm not good at writing it down every day. My life's very chaotic, but I have a phone, and so I have an app with like a gratitude journal, and every day I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. It just makes it easy with my lifestyle. So it just depends. And then just always, as an entrepreneur, I would say, if you want to be an entrepreneur or have an interest in being an entrepreneur, and also working for somebody too, to that point, it's constant continuing education and learning. Learning doesn't stop in a classroom. Learning doesn't stop going to college. Learning doesn't stop with an MBA, a PhD, becoming a lawyer, a doctor, a vet, whatever you want to become. Like, I'm constantly learning, I'm reading, I'm always interested to learn something more. So I feel like, be curious of the world. Be so curious. I'm always about problems to solutions. I think that is one of the biggest things I've learned about being a business owner is what's a problem and then finding the solution. I think at the end of the day, when I look at business owners, there's really 2 different kinds. There's the visionaries, right? There's the people creating the Airbnbs and the Verbos and the Ubers of the world, the Microsoft, the Amazon, these like extraordinary, crazy minds. But then there's people like myself. I created something that exists. And being a bookkeeper, there's plenty of bookkeepers. But what's your differentiation? What's going to make you different? What's going to make you stand out compared to everybody else? And so I would say, if you find that thing, what makes yourself a little bit different? Like, I think of a hairstylist, right? Plenty of hairstylists. But why would you go to them? Maybe they're specialized at being a blonde. Maybe they're specialized in short bobs. Maybe they're specialized in some crazy style or crazy color. I don't know what it is. But we all have a differentiator in this. So I just think differentiating yourself in a market that could be crowded will make you just that much more valuable. Go to the next slide. So thinking about this for Q&A, what is the one thing you believe about money? What's the one thing you were taught about money? You know, I think we all have our own mindset around this. And so it's really thinking about, how does money make you feel? What do you believe? What do you not believe? Money is a weird thing to talk about. It's not dinner table talk, right? I actually did it's so weird to even say this, my will recently. And it's not a normal conversation. You don't talk about this at dinner. You don't talk about money at dinner for a lot of families. I'm not afraid to talk about it, but a lot of other people are. And so what is some of your beliefs or some of your mindsets, and how can we shift and change that? So just always remember, money really gives you freedom and options in life to do whatever you want. When you have money, you can pay for your health, you can pay for experiences, you can pay to support your family. But in order to do all those things, you need money. You can go to the next slide. So some of the biggest takeaways from my presentation. Obviously, every single relationship with money is personal. Just like your relationships with people, they're all personal, right? Every single person you meet, you're going to have a different relationship with them, just as much as money. So it's just being really mindful of that. And then really for entrepreneurship, I just want to briefly say, no path is linear at all. Being an entrepreneur is the craziest journey I've ever been through in my life. Like, I feel like blood, sweat, and tears is so true. I mean, I remember I had a crazy week, and I woke up one morning sore and tired, and not tired from like a crazy workout, but tired, like my body was exhausted, and I had to give myself the break. And so being an entrepreneur, there is no routine. It's not like a 9 to 5 where you wake up, you have breakfast, you get ready, and then you go to work 9 to 5, and then you shut your laptop, right? And you go home and you have dinner, and then you can go to bed at 8, 9 o'clock. That's not an entrepreneurial life. And I guess I want to be very clear on that, because an entrepreneur's life, I work probably 6, 7 days a week. Am I working 24/7? Not like I used to, but I'm constantly working all the time. And so if you're okay with that, this life is amazing. But I want to just be very transparent about being an entrepreneur, that it's not for the weak, but it is something extremely rewarding. You know, just like my son, certainly birth is not for the weak, but I'd say that, but he's worth it, right? So it really depends what's your risk reward and choosing your heart. The biggest thing for me is your network is your net worth. Going to career fairs like with Junior Achievement, meet these people, connect with them, but not even connection, follow up on LinkedIn, send the email, follow up, do the coffee. do whatever you can to make the connections. Your network is your net worth. It's something I did working in corporate, and I really believe making all these connections will help you elevate to the next level. And try to connect with everybody, because you never know who's going to help you. Especially with my business, I can meet a referral partner. That referral partner might not be my client, but they know somebody else who can be. So always treat people with kindness. Always listen. When I network with somebody, one of the things I do is like, well, how can I help you? Who can I connect you with? What are you looking for? Because when you're able to do that, naturally they're going to say, well, how can I help you? You want to help me so much, but how can I help you? And so when we're able to kind of give and take a little bit and give a lot more than taking, the dividends are just twofold. You really can just do so well with it. And I know it's helped me tremendously. I also will say, as an entrepreneur too, is selling. I think what is so misconstrued is you have to sell as a business owner. It's not fun. I tell anybody who's in a sales role, like, you could actually have your own business because you know how to sell and you know how to get out there. And being kind of introverted for a long time-ish, I was nervous to sell. I was nervous to put myself out there. You know, it's not like when you work for a company, you're representing the company. Like when I used to work at HBO, it was so cool. I could say, oh, I worked at HBO and I worked at this really cool company. Now working for myself, it's like my back's against the wall, you know, and I'm the one liable. And that's a different thought process. But selling for yourself is definitely hard. But if you're confident and you have clarity, you can sell anything. And I really believe that. And like I mentioned earlier, problems to solutions when you have a business. There are so many problems out there, but what is the solution, right? I mean, I'm obsessed with Shark Tank. I don't know if anybody else is, but I love the products that they create for problems to solutions. You know, look, we're all clothed, right? Obviously, we all wouldn't be, we'd be out in the wild if we didn't have clothes. So somebody created clothes for us to wear, right? Or we think of hair ties to pull our hair back because we're hot. Or we think of water bottles, you know? So there's so many different products out there and so many problems that people have. And what kind of solution are you going to give to the world? And just also with networking, it's like I said, I mentioned before, but like, be very mindful of connections. No, not every connection is going to get you where you want to go, but just be mindful of connecting with people, because I think everybody can use a connection or a smile. And there's people I've talked to where I've been like, wow, your dress looks pretty. You know, it's so easy to have that conversation with somebody. So I remember I was talking to somebody a long time ago about networking, and they're like, well, I don't know how to network. What do I do? And I said, just compliment their shoes, compliment their dress, compliment their hair, anything to start a conversation, because people will respond. Who doesn't love a compliment? So it's something so silly and so simple, but you know, it could, you never know where it could go. You can go to the next slide. So really kind of wrapping up, but if anybody has any questions, like I said, I understand what it's like to not like high school, and not have any confidence or ambition and just feeling really stuck. High school is the worst years of my life. Full transparency, I did not like high school, but yeah, it was not fun. But what got me excited was to work. And what got me excited was I was going to graduate and have a life, and I was going to work hard, and I was able to make money, and I was able to just hustle and want to do that, you know. But having the discipline in school is so important. Like, I'm so impressed you all have even laptops. I never had laptops in high school. That's so cool. So I'm just like really impressed with that in general. But I just, you know, it was not my favorite thing. And I want you to know, like, if you're not this perfect A+ student, it doesn't mean you're a failure at all. That drives me nuts. I was like a BC student, but I still graduated, and I'm still able to be successful. And just because you don't have the best grades, it doesn't mean you're not smart. So I just want to encourage each and every one of you. You're all smart, and you all have something really special in each and every one of you. And you all have something that you can bring out in the world. So thank you so much for having me be here.
For our students. Before we open it up to questions, can you talk a little, where are you from?
I'm from Charleston, South Carolina.
Can you tell us just a little bit about your journey, maybe what you wanted to be when you were younger,
Yeah.
You went to school, and how you know, some of the businesses you had previously worked for, and then how you formed your own company?
Sure. So I've loved to work. My mom never wanted to buy me what I wanted, and she said, you have to work a job. So I remember I worked at Party City when I was 15, and it was crazy to try to get a job because you had to get all this paperwork. But I remember I worked twice a week, you know, 4 to 6 hours, and I loved it. I loved making my own money, and I was so motivated by that. And so through high school and even college, I worked at a golf course. I worked at a bowling alley. I was a hostess. I bartended. I did all the odd jobs you can imagine. My first job at 20, I worked at a travel agency for a couple of years with connections, which I'm super grateful for. Kind of intern, did not get paid. And then they hired me. Yes, back then they did not pay for internships. It was pretty rare. If you did, it maybe was like $10 an hour. I mean, I was minimum wage many years ago, was like $7.15. So I know minimum wage is much higher now, but back then when I was working, it was much lower. And so I worked at a corporate job at a travel agency. Then in between, I worked at a healthcare startup, did not like it. It was a lot of like account management and sales, and healthcare wasn't my jam. And then I worked at HBO for 3 years, and it was a wonderful company. COVID hit, times were different. Then I worked at BBC Studios for about 2 years as a project manager, which was cool, dealing with some of the production and the back end. And then from there, I worked at a video game company, helping with their billing. So helping them kind of make sure that they were getting the money in and having a system around that. Then I got laid off. And I think nowadays it's so common to get laid off, which is not fun. But it was the biggest blessing of my life. It opened the door for me to allow creativity and something different. And when I told my husband I wanted to do bookkeeping, he goes, "What's wrong with you?" He's like, "Bookkeeping sounds terrible." And I said, "Listen, my grandmother was a bookkeeper. CPAs are in my family. It just kind of runs in my blood, and I think I'm meant to do this." And so I worked for someone, like I mentioned before. I think working for someone and seeing if you even like it, you dip the toe in, right? But you're not jumping full in. And it dipped the toe in for me. And I realized what I liked and what I didn't like and how I can make my business better. And so from there, I gained my first client, and I've just had the momentum ever since. And so now I'm even doing another business because, again, like you mentioned earlier about being an entrepreneur, you become an entrepreneur, you love your business, but what else can you do? So I'm doing another business soon enough, and I'm just so excited to be a business owner and to help problems to solutions and to just find ways to have my own life and do it on my terms. So I've had a very interesting career. I have not, and plus in corporate, I've never been able to grow, which bothered me a lot. I've always wanted to grow and get promoted. And every time I was like this close, something happened or something changed. And it was very frustrating. So I could say I went from coordinator to CEO, but I did that on my own. And so I just want you to know, like, you can like own your own control and trajectory in your life. It just really depends how bad you want it and what you're willing to do for it.
So I'm going to have Adriana come up, and she's going to lead us in the question portion of this session. Thank you, Adriana. All of them, or just like, well, you can open it up to the floor first, and then see how it goes from there. Any questions? Why don't you stand up? Here, move over by the poster. Oh, sorry. Yeah, there you go.
Do you have like multiple locations, or is it just one?
So I'm virtual. I could take clients on in any 50 states. So currently being in Charleston, most of my clients are in Charleston, but I have clients in the upstate in South Carolina. I have a client in Texas, Colorado, New York, and DC. So, but with a virtual business, you can have clients pretty much anywhere. And depending on your business, with bookkeeping, I can only be in 50 states. But I have my partner who actually created this presentation. She can really work virtually anywhere in the world doing branding. So it really depends on your business and what you're trying to sell and what you're trying to achieve.
Anyone else have any questions? How many clients do you have, and how did you locate in West Palm Beach?
So my parents live in West Palm Beach, but currently I have over 40 clients.
What type of education or skills are required for the job?
It's very interesting with bookkeeping. You don't necessarily need a 4-year degree. You can get a certification, but I know plenty of bookkeepers who actually never really went to school. They just are kind of self-taught. They worked for somebody else. So you don't necessarily need it. Now, if you become a CPA, you have to do 4 or 5 years of school, have X amount of credits. You have to sit for the CPA. You might have to work for a company. There's a lot more entailed and involved to be a CPA. But as a bookkeeper, there's actually not as much like barrier to entry. It's pretty low entry, and it's really low cost to get started in a bookkeeping business.
Are there special certifications that are required?
Not necessarily. You can get them as optional. I think it helps if you're new. I got QuickBooks certified because I wanted to know. But again, I joke, depending what you do for college, like my college, really, I took 5% of college and used it in the real world. So you take it with a grain of salt. I've learned so much of my work ethic and my experience through actually working for somebody than I ever would have educationally, like just trying to do a course. So it depends on your route, but really is low entry. And I would say the best experience, like I said, is working for somebody. But some people get massive certifications and they get a ton, but you don't necessarily need to do a 4-year college for this.
Next semester, we're doing QuickBooks.
It's so fun.
We are for real, though.
Yeah.
Bookkeeper.
Yeah.
And you grew up in Charleston, and you spent time down here. Where did you go to school?
So I really grew up in New Jersey, but I worked in Manhattan for about 10 years. I lived in Connecticut with my now husband, and then we decided to move to Charleston for warmer weather, palm trees, slightly cheaper taxes. Living up north is very hard financially, and I just also couldn't take the cold anymore. I love that it's beautiful and 80. Like, who wouldn't want to be here?
Were there any points in your whole career that you wanted to stop? Like, were there any big difficulties that got in your way?
Oh yeah, I've had a couple times where I almost threw my laptop. I've had some really difficult clients. Like, I fired a client this week actually, which is the first time I've ever done that. But he was really rude and disrespectful to me, and I'm not going to tolerate that in my business. My business is very much relationship focused. So it depends, right? If you have a project based kind of business, you might work with a client for a few months and then you're done. My business is retainer. I get paid first of the month from my clients on a retainer basis. So my relationships with my clients are everything. And so I talk to my clients constantly. We're always in some kind of touch communication. So for me, if I don't work with good people, I don't want to be in it. I give so much of myself to my business. I can't imagine not having nice people to deal with. And so there's been times in my business I've literally I've called crying, like my referral partners, that I can't do this business. They're like, you're great, you're smart. And having those people, that's why I said so much accountability before, helps you get out of your head. As an entrepreneur, it's one of the loneliest journeys in the world. And I really believe you need community. You need so much community in what you do. And so I have community with bookkeepers who are moms, which has been amazing. I have community of women entrepreneurs. I now have community being a mom and just having mom friends. Like, find your people in this world, whatever that looks like. I told one of my clients this. She was kind of frustrated, and she loves her family, loves her friends. I said, you could love those people, but she's an artist, and I said, you need artist friends. You need artist people. And she found those people, and she's so much happier in her business because they understand her language. They understand what she's going through. So I would say, depending what you do, like, find those people close to you who are not going to judge you, who are not going to make you feel like crap. They're going to make you feel good, and they're going to elevate you even on your worst days, because your why has to be so important in your business. Because yes, there's been days where I was like, I can't do this. But my why is so rooted and grounded in me that I keep going every single day. And so you're going to have bad days in anything in life, but it's just knowing how to get through that. You're welcome. There is no routine. I will be very honest with you. Before a baby, it was just, how can I fill my calendar with events? My first year, it was going to 3-4 networking events a week, coffee meetups, virtual, phone calls, lunches, happy hours, breakfast, dinner, like anything I could fit my schedule. Now, since having a child, my life has changed. I have babysitting 1 day a week on Tuesdays. That's my day of like meetings, scheduling, getting work done. When my son naps, I work too. So no 2 days are the same as an entrepreneur. Like I mentioned earlier, when you work for a company, you kind of have this 9 to 5 routine. When you're an entrepreneur, anything can go wrong. I've had clients call me 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. I've had clients email me 7 in the morning. It's kind of crazy. You mitigate your boundaries, and you have to do that at some point. In the beginning, I didn't. I've had to learn that kind of recently, to be honest. But you don't have like a real routine. You can make routine for yourself, but you have to be disciplined enough to do it. That's a good question. The coolest thing I've done, I would say, just being involved, like going to different events. I would say this is pretty cool for me, like to talk about this, because I only wish I would have had an opportunity to hear somebody else like me out there being an entrepreneur. I didn't know what this world was like. I only knew like get a corporate job, get the benefits, get the 401k. It was never thinking outside the box. And so I'm just so excited to be here to talk about my story, because I didn't have the inspiration from anybody. And again, Instagram and TikTok and all these things weren't what they were when I was growing up. I had to just say, okay, like this is what life is. Now there's just so many more opportunities out there that I would have never known ahead. So I would say it's just cool for me to be in a room. And I definitely, I think the most interesting part for me, when you work for a company and you're a coordinator, whatever manager, director level you are, you're treated very differently as a business owner. As a business owner, I've been treated with so much more respect than I ever did working for someone. So I love that people look at me from a different lens now than they ever did. So it's a different shift, but it's been cool to go through that journey. Sorry? Clients. Clients can be really challenging. Also, employees can be too. My biggest thing with employees is hire slow, fire fast. It's a really challenging thing to hire good people. When you have good people, you want them to stay. And I personally believe in treating employees like gold. They help you run your business. And I get so frustrated when I see corporations just laying people off and not really caring. And it's like, you're not valuing these people. People run your business. And yes, people say AI is going to take over. Not in our lifetime, I don't think. It's a tool, it'll help you, but you need people. And so I treat my employees like gold. But there's obviously challenges. If people make mistakes, I got to take the blame for it, even if it's not my fault. My clients can be really challenging if they don't like how something looks or they're maybe just having a bad day. How do you mitigate that? I'm almost like a therapist some days. So it can be really challenging to work with difficult people sometimes. But at the end of the day, like, it's still worth it. But there's hard days in your business where you lose a client or you don't win a deal. So it's an emotional roller coaster.
Before reaching where you're at now, was it hard to promote your business?
Sorry?
Before reaching where you're at now, was it hard to promote your business?
Yeah, it was hard to build trust. I will say you have to build that like, know, and trust factor. I felt I had to fake it till I made it a little bit. I think when you're a new business owner, nobody's going to 100% trust you. They're like, who are you? You know what I mean? Like, how long have you been in business for? It's like, well, only like 3 months. You know, it's hard. Now I've been in business for 3 years. I have more confidence in myself. And you had to fake it till you made it a little bit. But it's definitely hard in the beginning, but you just have to show up and you have to get out there and you have to not get over the fear a little bit, but you just have to say, like, I know my worth, I know my value, I know I'm smart, I know I can do this. And it's just continuing to show up even on your worst day. Because if you believe in yourself and you believe in your service, and people believe that. And people believed me. You know, people at first were like, ooh, who is this girl? Can I trust her? And then once they got to know me and I proved my value and I proved my worth, it was worth it. And here's an example of this. I had a client who I do now 4 of his books. When I first got in his books, he was obsessed with his profit and loss. He's like, oh, I'm so obsessed with my profit and loss. And I looked at his balance sheet. I said, this is messed up. This isn't right. This is wrong. This is incorrect. And he was embarrassed. He's like, I didn't look at my numbers right. I said, you didn't. Since then, he opened another business. I was his first phone call. He said, I closed this deal. You need to come in tomorrow. And since then, any other business, he's always trusted me. But you have to prove it. And that's really hard. It was really hard for me in the beginning. But if you believe in yourself and you know your worth and you can understand, sky's the limit for you. But the beginning is the hardest part.
Do you have like certain businesses that you work with, or like you're open to anything?
So I like solopreneur clients. I like kind of a solopreneur who has contractors. I have food and bev clients. My food and bev clients, one owns like a vegan cafe, another one owns a food truck. I have a client who owns a brewery. I have a client who owns a restaurant. I have a client who owns a nonprofit, actually, so that I kind of understand the nonprofit world. I have a client who owns a roofing business, construction, handyman. I have a client who's an influencer, which is interesting. Client who owns a yoga studio. So really, I'm a gambit. I prefer service-based. I don't love inventory or products. I take them on select few for a reason, but really service-based businesses are my jam. 50 employees or under. It's just, I want to work with the business owner. I love the small but mighty client. To me, that's what makes me happy and fills my cup up.
Are your like employees located closely, or are they virtual as well?
All virtual. I love, for me, the flexibility. I think COVID gave a lot of, especially women, opportunity to be at home and not have to go into an office. And unfortunately, we've kind of gone back to it. And I do think there's a lot of pros to that as well. But I want to empower my team, and a lot of them are moms. Then I don't care what time they work. I don't care where they work. I just have days where I need things done. So whether it's 2 in the morning or 2 in the afternoon, I personally don't care. I just need it done. And so for me, as long as you have a laptop and Wi-Fi and a phone, and you do the job and I tell you, you know, when I need things done, that's all that matters to me. So I love having a more virtual team.
What type of person is successful in your company?
Sorry?
What type of person is successful in your company?
That's a good question. So define success. I have a lot of clients who make a ton of revenue, but their net is not great, right? And I have clients who don't make a lot of profit in their business, but their net is awesome. So it really depends, right? I think some of my clients are doing really, really well, but again, their net shows, or they have a lot of loans that they have to pay back. I have clients who make millions in their business, but they have nothing because they're paying so many people out and they're paying for so much. So it depends what you define as success. You know, some of my clients who only make $250,000 could net 100,000. So it depends on the numbers, right? And it depends on what you're selling, what's in the market. You know, I have a property management client who does really well, but again, it's really hard, and he's got to pay a ton of people out. So it just really depends, you know, what success means to you and how much money you want to make and what does that look like. You know, when you scale, I joke, more money, more problems, right? When you make a lot more money, you have to hire more people, you have to scale, you have to have more operations. Like it's a different thought process. When you're small, it's like, oh, it's, you know, it's cute. It's just maybe your expenses aren't too high. And now I feel it myself as I make more money. Oh shoot, I got to pay more people. You know, people are relying on me for payroll. It's not like a company's paying me. I got to pay people out. So it's a different thought process of what success looks like to you and what you want to make, what you spend. There's just a lot of factors around it. So I would say if you are going to be an entrepreneur, like do the thing you're really happy about, but that also makes you money.
What do you like most about your job?
I love just helping my clients. I love giving them peace of mind. I love empowering them. Like my clients will come to me, especially women, truthfully, very vulnerable, very scared, very nervous. They don't like to talk about money. It's a very sensitive topic. And so I just really want them to feel they're in good hands with me. No question is a dumb question in my world. And if I don't know the answer, I'll find the answer for them. Because to me, I never want someone to feel uncomfortable. I think we've all had the calls with people that someone made you feel icky or slimy or uncomfortable. And I don't like that. I want to make sure, like, if someone comes to me, that they feel comfortable. So, you know, just having them come to me and feel like, okay, I'm in good hands with Mariel. She's taking care of my finances and I don't have to worry. And then it helps them think about their business where they were nervous to talk about it. Now they're like, okay, what's my marketing budget? Or how much am I paying in software? Where can I cut costs? Or how can I make more? They're able to just think a little bit differently. You're welcome.
Were there any last questions before we wrap it up? I think you asked wonderful questions. You did an amazing job with the presentation. And Freddie here has a little.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you. This is so nice.
Your achievement.
Thank you.
Take back for those cooler nights. And
Thank you. Thank you.
well, I took a lot of notes. I don't know if you did. I saw you writing out there. Here are some of my notes, my takeaways from this. Find your people. Give me a thumbs up if you agree with that. So important no matter what you do in life, right? Like you need to know your support systems, your mentor, your coach, all along the way. Your family, those are your people. What's your differentiator, right?
Yeah.
What makes you different? You don't want to be the same as everybody else no matter what you're doing. So what makes you different and standing out from everybody else that people are like, I want to work with you. I want to be friends with you. I want to be on your team, right? Budget. That's pretty important. Goals, systems, and learning. Continuous learning no matter what you are doing. I took away the gratitude.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to take a step back and be thankful for the things that we have so we can proceed forward. No doubt you're a problem solver. We can see that, right?
Yeah.
How many times did she say problem solution? If there's a problem, to find a solution. So definitely a key skill of an entrepreneur. Money gives freedom, and your network is your net worth. Some great takeaways today. I hope you can resonate with that and remember that as you move forward in your careers. So thank you so much, Mariel. We really appreciate you coming out, sharing your story, and showing students how skills, passion, and life experience can shape an entrepreneurial journey. Your transition from the corporate world, and you've had a lot of different experiences.
A lot.
Yes. Small business ownership and your commitment to supporting fellow mompreneurs.
Sure. Mompreneurs and all kind of entrepreneurs.
And all kinds of entrepreneurs. Offers powerful lessons around courage, balance, and believing in your ideas. Thank you again for being part of Junior Achievement's Global Entrepreneurship Week.
Thank you.